All right, so the committee system or your government class continued. Um, Basically, like I said in class, standing committee. When I use the word committee, I almost am always referring to a standing committee. But the truth is that there are several types of committee. First, I'll talk about the standing committee. The standing committee, let me see if I can make this work. Probably not. In fact, I'm about to pause for a second because I'm having technical problems. All right, sorry about that. So I think part of these committees are probably blocked by the video of myself, and I apologize. But basically the idea is that the Senate, which is over here, these Senate committees are the standing committees for the Senate, and these are the committees for the House. The committees are essentially where legislation goes to. So one of the main jobs of the committee is to divide the workload of the Congress. They were created so that a president, the legislative branch could talk about more than one thing at once. So when a bill goes to committee, it goes to, in the Senate, it goes to these committees, in the House, it goes to these committees. They do not coincide, go together perfectly. For example, they don't, for example, in the House, they have an agriculture committee. In the Senate, it's agricultural, nutrition, and forestry. So what that means is that just because it goes in one committee, and if it's the same bill, it might go to one committee in the Senate and another committee in the House. Both have budget committees and both have armed services committees and appropriations. Appropriations is a very important committee because that is the committee that actually hands out the money. You might pass a law that's going to cost the government $100 million, but appropriations actually has to give the $100 million. That is the funding committee. It is incredibly important. So when I say important, I mean it might be on your quiz or an upcoming quiz, so I would prepare for it. And of course, I made my committee lists disappear, so let me see if I can bring those back up. Oh, look at the talent. Yes, I'm so talented. Where the hell is the other one? That's Govs. All right, so back to the committee. Sorry about that. I was admiring just the genius that I am, clearly. Other committees you need to know, Ways and Means. Ways and Means is a committee on taxes, and this is important because the Senate has all the powers, has really more power than the House in a lot of ways. When it comes to approving appointments, it's the Senate's job. When it comes to ratifying treaties, it's the Senate's job. But the only power the House has is that a tax bill has to start in Ways and Means. And not intelligence, Ways and Means. Yay! All right, I did it. And so tax bill has to start in the House, and all tax bills go to the Ways and Means Committee, which makes Ways and Means incredibly important. Meanwhile, like Judiciary Committee, the Judiciary Committee is the, whoops-a-daisy, hello, there you go, Judiciary Committee, woohoo! They are the ones that look at the president's appointments to the judicial branch, so Supreme Court justices and judges. The Judiciary Committee in the House does not get to do that. So both committees would be in charge of maybe some funding and judicial branch or other things like that, but it is the Judiciary Committee in the Senate that is powerful. The one in the House is not powerful. All right, and of course, the Rules Committee. This is an important committee, as I talked about before, because they decide how long members of the House can talk. They schedule meetings when their debate's going to happen, and they decide if it's going to be an open or closed rule. What that means is open rule means you're allowed to add amendments. Closed rule means you cannot add amendments. All right, so those are standing committees. They are called standing because they always exist. It's where legislation goes to. There are also committees that might do an investigation. All right. I believe I attached a link to Stephen Colbert testifying in front of one of the agriculture committees. They could do that in the standing committee. However, there are other sorts of committees as well. There's a select committee. It's a temporary committee. Standing committees exist pretty much in perpetuity. That means forever. And select committees are temporary. They might exist for a decade. Could be a committee on the war on drugs, so it didn't exist in 1970. A joint committee. just means that the committee has both Senate and members of the House. Can't see that. That's all a joint committee means. And for the most part, you don't need to know what a joint committee is. The only reason you need to know what a joint committee is because a conference committee is a type of joint committee. So once a bill has been passed by both the Senate and the House, they're likely to be different because one committee in the House, they might have cut fund or added funding in to fund manatees in Florida, the glorious sea cow, where in the Senate bill they did not add manatee funding because the Floridian senator didn't care. So they have to go to conference where basically members of the House and members of the Senate, they get together, they talk about the bill, and they come up with a compromise. The compromise might be the Senate bill, the compromise might be the House bill, or something in between. They might just cut the manatee funding, or they might add in, I don't know, crime prevention funding as well. After it goes to conference, it has to go back to the House and the Senate floors to be voted on again if they changed it. Obviously, if they just changed it, if the Senate agreed to vote in the House bill, like the Obamacare bill, then they don't need conference. The House doesn't need to vote again. Discharge petition. We already talked about it, so I feel comfortable skipping it. If you have a question, please ask me in class. All right, lastly, ways to get on a committee. Basically, the longer you have in Congress, the more likely you are to get on a better committee. There are committees you would like to be on and committees you don't want to be on. Like I said before, being on the ethics committee, I mean, it's got some power, so maybe, but small business committee might not be that exciting, where ways and means is considered important. So there are a number of ways to get on it, but basically the more years you have, seniority is more likely to get you on a committee. If you're a new member, freshman member, you're on whatever committee is left over. You pick last. Maybe maybe the Speaker of the House or the Majority Leader owes you a favor. Maybe that would help you get on a committee. Those are the basic ways one would get on a committee. Pork barrel is also called, and actually I should just change it, aka earmarks. Pork is basically you're adding something to a bill that might be completely unrelated, but it's to convince you to vote for it, like my manatee funding. If you have a defense bill to fund the war in Afghanistan, and you need my vote, and I really love the glorious sea cow. I am concerned about the manatees being slaughtered by motorboats. So I want to put in funding to protect the manatees. Maybe we'll bubble wrap all the manatees. I haven't quite figured out my solution yet, but I want money. Money isn't a bribe to me. The money is going to the manatees. But that's what it's going to cost to get my vote. So they might add pork or an earmark to that to benefit my district because my Floridian district has lots of manatees. All right. So that is pork barrel. It's basically adding unrelated things that benefit one member. It doesn't have to be about manatees. It could be library funding for your district. It could be making sure if you have a factory in your district that they're getting some sort of contract. All of this is pork barrel or earmarks. Short, it's also just called pork. The committee chairs, they obviously head the standing committees. And they're incredibly important because they can decide whether a bill moves on or not. If a bill is passed to them and they don't like it, like if there is a bill to, cut environmental funding and I'm very big on my manatees, I'm just going to be like, oh, I don't have time to schedule that. Sort of like when you turn in work late and then I forget to grade it. Same concept. It's like, maybe not. Oh, I lost it. So I just don't schedule the meeting, it never happens, the bill never gets discussed, and you lose the cuts in environmental funding never get passed. So the committee chairs have the power to schedule the bills that are assigned to their committee, and so it's important. They also can hold a hearing, Again, sort of what Stephen Colbert presented before, and they can ask questions of experts. So you can call an expert from, if I'm an environmental committee like the EPA, and have the director come down, the administrator come down and discuss that with me. And they're required to answer my questions. If they don't show up, they're held in contempt of Congress. And finally, almost saved by the bell. All right, so I got to wrap this up because it's 2:05. But finally, Committee of the Whole. A Committee of the Whole is basically when it only exists in the House of Representatives. The key difference, it exists in the House, it does not exist in the Senate, and it means that the whole House is meeting as one kind of giant committee. They do it for discussions. Because I have to wrap this up, I can talk a bit more about this in class. All right, guys, as always, if you have questions, I hope you've written them down so you can ask me in class. And I think that's it. So have a great day.